range with nowhere to plug in other than public charge network, is it feasible to own yet?
So you think electric cars are expensive? Think again. MG has released its very first electric car, the ZS EV, and on face value alone, it looks to be terrific value. Is it any good though? Well, let's delve a bit deeper to find out. Let's start with the price, which will be the ZS EV's biggest selling point. It is available in two trim levels, Excite and Exclusive, which have respective prices of £24,995 and £26,995. If you go for the Excite model, you'll get standard features including 8-inch touchscreen with DAB radio, Bluetooth, navigation and smartphone connectivity. You'll also get air conditioning, keyless entry, adaptive cruise control, leather steering wheel, 17-inch alloy wheels, rear parking sensors, autonomous emergency braking, lane keep assist, traffic jam assist and intelligent speed assist. However, spend £2,000 more and of course you'll get the exclusive model, which is what I have here. This adds features such as heated front seats, leather style seats, 6-way electronically adjustable driver's seat, 6-speaker sound system with 3D sound, panoramic roof, silver roof rails, electronically folding door mirrors, reversing camera, blind spot monitoring and rear cross traffic alert. It's clear to see that the ZS EV is a cheap car to buy, but what about the electric performance? This is powered by a 44.5 kilowatt hour capacity battery and of course an electric motor. It produces 143 horsepower along with 353 newton meters of torque. That's 260 pound-feet in case you are wondering. This power is mated to the front wheels and it will hit 62 miles per hour in a respectable 8.5 seconds, and the top speed is just 87 miles per hour, but let's face it, on UK roads that's plenty anyway. What you really want to know though is the range. So this has a range of 163 miles, which okay, isn't groundbreaking, but at the same time, I wouldn't say it's particularly woeful. In regard to charging times, you can charge this from 0% to 80% in 40 minutes if you use a 50 kilowatt charger, but if you happen to have a 7 kilowatt charger at home, you can charge this from 0% to 100% in around 6.5 hours. Accessing the charging points is easy because you simply press the MG badge in like so, lift up this part of the grille, and the ports are just there. To close it back up, you pop it back down, push it back in, and it clicks into place nicely. So the MG ZS EV to drive is pretty pleasant. It won't win any awards, but it's by no means a bad car to drive. It's quite torquey, well it's very torquey in fact because of the electric powertrain, so if I put my foot down now, national speed limit. Now bear in mind, this is in eco mode. Yep, it's pretty swift. Now speaking of eco, you also have a normal mode and a sports mode for when you want to make the car a bit more responsive. In sport mode, the steering becomes heavier as well, but the steering never has a lot of feedback if I'm going to be honest, but to be fair, you won't buy this car because it handles well, you buy it because it's cheap and it is practical. But I do want to touch upon the handling for a few moments. You know what, in the corners it's not too bad. Yes, there is a fair amount of lean. This does weigh more than the petrol version of the ZS, but I would say it's reasonably competent. The steering actually feels quite direct if I'm going to be honest. The grip is okay. The brakes, I'm not a massive fan of them. I find them to be a bit too sharp, and some people have said that the brake pedal has got a nice feedback to it, but I disagree. I think the brakes feel too sharp and they do feel like a bit of a light switch. They are either on or off. Sometimes you put pressure through the pedal and it's not enough, or sometimes you put too much through it. So I'm not a big fan of the brakes. Speaking of the brakes, this does of course have regenerative braking, which has 3 different modes. You have light, moderate or heavy. In heavy mode, you can almost drive this as a one-pedal car like you can in the new Nissan Leaf. It's not quite as good as the Leaf in that respect, but it's not too bad in all honesty. Let's speak about the ride. down here the ride is just fine, to be honest. It's quite smooth, it soaks up the bumps quite nicely, but at lower speeds it is quite lumpy and it is quite busy, and like other of the newer generation of the MGs I've driven, at low speeds it is quite firm as well. But overall the comfort isn't too bad. Refinement may be an issue though, because if I just shut up for a few moments you may hear the road noise. So doing about 50 miles per hour. Yep, there's quite a fair amount of road noise coming into the cabin, and when you're going down a motorway at 70 there's also a noticeable amount of wind noise as well. So on a longer journey this may prove to be a little bit tiring to drive, so that may be worth bearing in mind if you like to do long family road trips. Although to be fair, because of the range, you probably wouldn't use this for really long journeys anyway, so I suppose that's kind of a pointless thing to say. Now the car may be a little bit noisy in regard to wind noise and road noise at faster speeds, but the electric motor isn't actually too loud. You can hear it's working, but I wouldn't say it's overly loud, so that's pretty impressive. Visibility out the car is just fine. The wing mirrors are of a good size in this car as standard. It's got the blind spot monitoring, which is very handy. Seeing out the front's fine. The C-pillar is quite thick, so seeing over the shoulder may be a little bit tricky for some, but the rear view mirror, the rear window I should say, is of a good size. So no concerns about visibility, but you do have rear parking sensors and a reversing camera, just in case you do get a little bit stuck. I do find it a little bit annoying that you don't get front parking sensors, but it's not too much of a big complaint. The lack of front parking sensors is a little bit disappointing, but the same cannot be said for the Practicality. You would assume that the ZS EV has got a smaller boot compared to its petrol-powered sibling because of the extra space needed for the batteries. Well, you'd be wrong. Lift up the tailgate like so. It's got a flip-up badge style like you would find on a Volkswagen Automotive Group car. And you'll find this has 470 litres, whereas the petrol version has 448. Not only is this boot bigger compared to its standard version, but it is also larger than the Nissan Leaf, the Hyundai Kona Electric and the Kia e-Niro, so this is bound to appeal to family buyers. Now, the opening for the boot is quite wide. There is quite a large step into it. However, you do get an adjustable boot floor as standard. So lift it up like so, and it makes the boot a little bit shallower, so it will be easier to load bigger or heavier items, or perhaps a big family shop. If you want more space though, you can of course fold down the 60/40 rear seats to give you 1,100 litres. The charging cables and the tyre repair kit are kept underneath the boot floor, and you have a compartment either side where you can store a few smaller items, and there's also a bit of netting to stop them flying about as you drive along. So overall, the ZS EV boot is pretty impressive. Like the boot, the rear offers a decent amount of space. As always, the driver's seat has been set for me. I'm 6'2", so I am of course a taller chap. But even so, the space left behind is pretty agreeable. Knee room is okay. Yep, got no complaints there. And there's also a decent amount of leg room. This car does have the panoramic roof, so it does cut into headroom a little bit. I haven't got acres, but I do have about a centimetre or so spare, so even if you happen to be a taller person, sitting in the back of the ZS EV for a long duration shouldn't be a hardship. Now, could you fit 3 adults in the rear? I don't think so, but for 2 adults or 3 children, it should be fine. And of course, you have ISOFIX points. Moving on to the practical elements of the rear, the door bins are of a good size. I can fit in this 500ml can with no concerns whatsoever. You've got a pouch in the back of the front seats, and you also have a cubby hole in the middle where you can pop a packet of chewing gum or 1 or 2 other smaller items, and you even get a USB port as well, which I find impressive. So those in the rear can charge their smartphones or their tablets on the go. So yeah, a thumbs up from me, MG, well done. Step into the front and you may be a little bit disappointed that the steering wheel only adjusts for rake, so it goes down or up and vice versa, and that is it. Although the Nissan Leaf has got the same complaint, so not too much of a big issue if you ask me. The rake adjustment isn't quite as much as I would want, but having said that, I've still found it really easy to get a driving setup that I'm comfortable with. For the exclusive model, you get a driver's seat, which is 6-way electronically adjustable. So yeah, like I say, getting a setup that I'm happy with was very easy indeed. Let's move on to the practical elements of the front. The door bins are of a good size. You can fit in a 1.5 litre bottle very easily. And you have a bit of space left over for a few snacks. You've got 2 cubbies in the middle, a smaller one where you can pop your smartphone. There's no wireless phone charging pad in case you're wondering, but you do have 2 USB ports down here and a 12-volt socket, as well as another compartment where you can pop your smartphone. 2 cup holders in the middle, quite self-explanatory. They can be covered up by this piece of plastic trim if you don't want to use them, to give the inside a bit more of a cleaner look. There's additional storage underneath the centre armrest, which offers a decent amount of space. And of course, last but not least, you do get a glove box, which isn't overly big, but you should be able to fit the manual in there, or perhaps some snacks for a family road trip. Let's speak about the inside. You know what? The inside isn't too bad a place to be. Yes, there are of course some cheap plastics knocking about, but you do get a softish touch dashboard. And to be fair, compared to the early offerings of the new generation of MGs, the ZS EV, it is leaps and bounds above the original MG3, which felt quite dated inside. So yeah, don't get me wrong, some of the interior fixtures do feel a little bit pound shop-ish, but you know what? You can't complain. This is a cheap car. And I think for the most part, MG has done a decent job with the interior. The touchscreen has also got a relatively nice clarity to it. I quite like the display. It's not the most seamless touchscreen to use though. It's quite laggy. Sometimes it can be almost frustratingly slow. The navigation isn't quite as intuitive as I would like it to be. But of course you have Android Auto and Apple CarPlay to get around that problem. The clarity of the reversing camera isn't particularly amazing either, but again, it's not too much of an issue, and I think it's difficult to complain about these kind of things when you bear in mind just how cheap this car is. You can have the base model for under £25,000 and you still get a lot of kit for your money. Now, what other electric car can offer this amount of value? None is the answer to that. So once again, it is time for Ask Aaron, the segment in which you guys get to ask me questions about whichever car I'm testing. Because I'm short on time today, I'm actually filming this part whilst I'm driving, because yeah, time today has run away from me. So I've actually got my better half in the back of the car, and she's going to fire the questions at me. Now, sadly, I only got 2 questions for the ZS EV, but on the plus side, it should be nice and quick. So, first question, my love.
With a car of that range, with nowhere to plug in other than public charge network, is it feasible to own yet?
Well, I would say it depends on your type of driving. If you're going to use this as a family car to take the kids to school and do a bit of shopping, then yes, I can see why you could have this with nowhere to charge it. However, if you're going to be doing longer journeys, longer commutes, then of course you will need to have somewhere at home to charge it. Otherwise, you're going to have to rely on public charging places. I live in a flat, so I can't charge this car at home and I can't charge it at work. So for me, I probably could own this because my commutes are quite short. So yeah, in a nutshell, I think it all depends on what type of driving you're doing.
Can it be somewhat entertaining to drive?
I suppose that's quite a subjective question, but I would say not really. It's okay to drive, don't get me wrong. It's not totally disastrous, but at the same time, I've not found much joy whilst driving the ZS EV. Anyway, that is Ask Aaron, done and dusted for another instalment. Let's finish things off with safety, an area which is bound to be important to family buyers. Thanks to standard features such as 6 airbags, autonomous emergency braking, lane keep assist and speed limiter, the ZS EV was awarded 5 stars by Euro NCAP. The exclusive model is able to add to the safety features with blind spot monitoring and rear cross traffic alert. But no matter which model you go for, you'll get a 7-year warranty as standard. Impressive stuff, MG. Like the petrol version, the ZS EV isn't the most perfect car in the world, well, there's no such thing, but it's really difficult to complain when you bear in mind just how much value you get. You get plenty of kit, a good amount of space, and you know what? I think for an entry-level electric car, MG has done a good job. So if you are looking for an electric car and you want to make that transition into EV motoring, I would strongly urge you to take a look at the new ZS EV, because what it does, it makes electric accessible. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have enjoyed it. If so, be sure to like, subscribe and to ring my bell so you get notified every time I make a video. But until the next time, guys, be sure to keep up the car obsession.